Hello, everybody. My name is Greg. Welcome to the channel. Today, I wanted to talk about the story of Adam and Eve in the Christian religions, although it is in the, I think, Islamic religion, Judaism too, but they have slightly very different variations of it. But I'm mostly going to talk about the Christian since I have more experience with the Christian belief through Catholicism and born again Christianity. I was exposed to both of those two religions growing up, which is another story I'll talk about some other time. But yeah, we all know the story of Adam and Eve. These are the two human beings that God first created. And he first created Adam out of, supposedly out of dust. He created him out of dust. And he put him into the Garden of Eden. And he let him know, you can eat from all of the trees in this garden except for this one tree, the tree of knowledge, the tree of good and evil. Don't eat from that tree. Then I guess at some point he realized he needed a companion, so he created Eve, a woman, out of his rib. He needed to get a piece of man to create women. So he created Eve, and that was his companion. Told her the same thing, don't eat from the tree of knowledge. And then the serpent came around, started tempting Eve to eat from the tree of knowledge, and nothing would happen to her if she did, except for gaining knowledge. So, and then the tree looked good, it looked attractive, it looked tasty. So she ends up taking a bite, and her eyes get open, and she goes around to Adam and tempts him. Well, yeah, I guess you could say it's tempting, whatever. And then he eventually eats from it too, and he becomes aware, and supposedly they become aware of like shame and evil. They have this destructive awareness within them, but it's also a knowledge too. But that's a lot of how it's depicted, and they become aware of knowledge of good and evil, and God gets, I guess, he gets aware of it and questions them. But then I suppose they're hiding. They're hiding from God because they feel this guilt going on in them. God eventually approaches them, and they tell him that he sinned, that they sinned, they disobeyed, they ate from the tree of knowledge. So God issues punishment to them, and he basically kicks them out of the Garden of Eden. Kind of puts like a curse on them. He punishes man to a lifetime of hard labor, and he punishes the women with pain during childbirth and subordination to man. And he curses the serpent too. Says something to him, I don't know, him or her, whatever the serpent was. And he cast them out of the garden. Basically put them here on earth, and he looked at them as sinners, people who disobey his rule. So he kicked them out and basically cursed them. And yeah, so I just wanted to break down what I feel about different parts of this story. You know, First of all, God creates Adam, and then he tells him, "Don't eat from the tree of knowledge." He points out this tree. Well, first of all, he created him as an adult. He didn't even go through childhood. He wasn't a baby. He didn't grow up. He didn't have any experience of life. And yeah, I was gonna say too. Before he banished them, they or God made them aware of their nakedness, so they clothed them too. So that was another thing that was sexuality or whatever, kicked them out. But what I was saying about he told Adam not to eat from the tree of knowledge. So right there, that's the first. Who is the first deity that tempts Adam? It's God. This supposedly the God of all creation. He's the first one to tempt Adam by telling him, pointing out the tree of knowledge and saying, "Don't eat from that tree." You see that in society with parents smoking cigarettes, telling your children, "Don't smoke cigarettes; they're bad for you." What's the first thing they're going to do? They're going to be attracted to the cigarettes. What is it about these cigarettes? I want to try them. Don't drink alcohol; it's bad for you. I know my parents used to tell me that all the time. Then come around 10 or 11 years old when they're partying and they're unaware. I sneak into the refrigerator and I grab a beer. I sneak it out of the house, go to my friend's house. Let's drink a beer. See what this is all about. You know, so the first tempter is God himself, which right away is revealing of this is not really the true creator, someone who tempts in that kind of a way. Although right now as I'm saying that, I'm thinking of Rahu, the planet Rahu. The planet Rahu does teach lessons by tempting you to go do things that aren't going to work for you. So you go through them and you go through them, and then you reach a point where you've had enough of it, like drugs. You know, I'm tired of doing all these drugs and escaping, and it's not doing anything for me. It's giving me health problems. It's giving me breathing problems. I got to stop. Once you stop, Rahu really teaches you a lesson of wisdom. You know, Rahu embraces you. Rahu's like your pal. Hey, what's up, man? You know, let me show you something even more deep about knowledge. Now that you've learned that lesson, I'm going to teach you even more about life, about what not to do and what to do. You know, this God right here, basically when he tempted Adam, you know, he tempted Eve too. He exposed the tree of knowledge to them. When he tempted them and they disobeyed, he immediately just kicked them out of the garden. You know, it's like, you're banished from my heaven. You're out of here. I'm not even going to teach you anything more. You're gone. You're sinners. You're hateful. I hate you guys. Get out. You know, that's not a true deity to me. You know, that is a dysfunctional, disassociated, bipolar kind of a mentality. Supposedly the God of all creation, of all intelligence and wisdom, thinks this way. I don't think so. You know, it's the same thing with Saturn. Saturn holds you back and teaches you lessons with life. But once you learn these lessons, Saturn releases you and embraces you and liberates you. Makes you feel free, makes you feel love. You know, this is total hatred. You know, with this banishing out of the garden. So that's the first thing that I was aware of. And you know, the devil is the second tempter right there. But now let me go back a little bit. So he creates women from the rib of Adam. You know, and right there that's kind of saying that without man, women can't be created, you know. And you know, it's very I've seen in my experience in life, when men and women are arguing, men who have this superiority complex, they put that defense on women, or just to demean them. It's like, well, your opinions don't count anyway. You were created from the rib of a man. You know, you needed men to be created in the first place. God didn't create you with his own hands. You know, he needed a piece of the man. You know, so it's total demeaning to women, and it's it's just putting them on a lower level. It's not an equal level to man, which is total backwards from experiencing the universe, time and space, especially during meditations. You know, the creative energy is feminine. And the only way any living thing comes into this three-dimensional reality is through the woman, you know, the reproductive cycle. So that's another thing that's just off. You know, it's the first kind of way to put women on a lower level, in that subordinate level. And let me see, what else does I want to say? Then, you know, the whole idea of them being innocent too in the first place. He's tempting them, but yet they have no experience too with anything. So he's tempting them right away. God is tempting them. But they have this fresh mind. You know, it doesn't make sense either. That why would this deity tempt such an innocent person, innocent souls, to do things? You know, it's just, especially when kicking them out of the whole garden. You know, he didn't teach them any kind of a lesson. He didn't embrace them as his children. And who created the serpent? You know, if God created everything, he created the serpent too. You know, what is that, his right hand man? But supposedly he's not, you know. It's just a lot of backwards, dysfunctional kind of a deity. So when they attain this eating from the tree of knowledge too, this whole being aware of good and evil is, you know, it's why we're here, is to become aware of everything good and evil. You know, you want to know what really works for you in this life, and you want to know what doesn't work for you in this life, and you want to surround yourself with people who accept who you are. And this whole not attaining knowledge has come through this religion by it basically saying that it is the only religion. It's your only way to heaven. You know, like the Thunder Wizard says about heaven. Is it just what the Christian religions say? It's just floating on a cloud and playing a harp all the time? You know, it sounds boring, you know. It's not the real thing. But this religion prevents you from going into altered states of consciousness by saying that anything besides this religion is the work of the devil. It's evil. You know, any meditation, any ritual, any acknowledgement of earth energies, any other gods, spirits, it's all evil. There's nothing good about it. Even yoga is evil, because you're becoming aware of your body, you're expanding your knowledge, you're becoming aware of your unconscious, things that stop you, block you, things that open you up. So this whole, it really programs the whole world into being fearful of gaining knowledge, occult knowledge, knowledge of energy, knowledge of how the energy moves in the body. You know, this whole myth puts the blinders on perception. It completely closes the doors, doesn't allow you to see things clearly. And then the whole idea of God banishing man, the curse that he put on man, is a lifetime of hard work, hard labor. You know, it's like these creation myths were created by men wanting man to be on this planet and work their asses off for them, for government leaders, or, you know, people in high places of power. So you don't question, why am I working my ass off for so little pay? You know, right away it's an unconscious thing about the story of Adam and Eve. You know, it's like, well, this is what we got to do. I can't question this. I'm here to do this. I got to do this, and that's it. You know, this is why a lot of artistic type of work is considered to be not good. You know, rock and roll, being a rock and roll musician, being successful is all considered the devil too, the devil's music and all that. You know, the whole story of selling your soul to the devil to be all famous and all that. You know, because supposedly they're not working hard, which they are too, you know. And then the whole thing about women being cursed to have pain during pregnancy. I mean, that's a natural. They're going to have that anyway. I don't think that was a curse. But the whole subordination to men, that is another way of demeaning women, you know. Putting down the feminine, keeping it pressed down, keeping the feminine energy from even growing within men. You know, being able to be aware of your feelings and understanding why you feel a certain way. You know, people are not even aware of why they feel or how they feel about things. You know, there's, I don't know. They just don't pay attention. They bury it inside. You know, they don't want to really even look within and acknowledge what they're feeling. You know, it's a total disassociation within this religion, within this whole mythology. And he also banished them too because of he didn't want them to eat from the second tree, which was the tree of life, which would give them immortality. So this is another thing that blocks people from realizing that the soul lives forever. You know, but there's this whole duality thing too, because in Christian religions they say that you live forever anyway. You go to heaven and you live forever. But still, people in the world that are into Christian religions, they have this fear of death, they're total, afraid of dying. You know, it's all about becoming, when you become aware of your soul, you start to feel the infinite energy that your soul has. You can get to this point where you start really realizing that your soul has been around way before this life. I mean, it's always been around for who knows how many lives, thousands, maybe even millions of lives. It's always been there. So he was preventing them from eating from the tree of life to gain immortality. And you look at the Norse, the Northern Europeans, the Teutons. They had the tree of life within their spiritual practices, and that was about the 9 worlds within the tree of life, and the 8 directions, and the center being the ninth, Midgard. So that's already like, they were the first. I don't know if they were the exact first ones, but the whole Romans converting them to Christianity, they wanted to stop them and their beliefs and their spirituality, and they had this whole tree of life thing. So maybe this whole tree of life mythology came from the Teutons in the first place. They wanted to get rid of that whole real universal communication between humans and the energies of the universe. So they put that in the mythology. They wanted to God prevented Adam and Eve from eating from the tree of life, which is another spiritual practice, especially within the Thunder Wizard's teachings. So that's another thing. It's this whole fear where you don't question. You're not supposed to question any, especially questioning any type of Christian beliefs. You just don't do that. Or else you're going to hell forever. You're going to burn in hell. So that's what I wanted to talk about. That whole story of Adam and Eve is just blocking. It's about fear. It's about this dysfunctional God that created everything, and then he sends down his son too, to die for everybody's sins. Another story that's crazy. He sent down his son to shed his blood and be killed and murdered, die for our sins. That's another unconscious way of letting human beings be destructive. It's like, well, I don't have to work on myself. Jesus died for me, so I don't have to work on myself, and I don't really have the strength to work on myself, because this is what the stories say, and we know which is bull too. There is a lot of strength within all of us to expand and grow. The power to overcome all of the mental blockages that we have is within us. The kingdom of heaven is within. So that's all I wanted to talk about. We should all free ourselves from this mythology, and feel the real energy of the universe. That's all I wanted to talk about. So if anybody wants a Thunder Astrology reading, I'll leave a link on the bottom. Guys, have a good day. Peace.